Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. Welcome to International Forum. I am Wilson Marshall. Today, it's all about what is happening in the U.S. Latest defection in Donald Trump's camp. And of course, when we talk about defection, it has this an effect on you. But when it's coming from a bloodline, a family member saying some things about you, you get to realize that that may have this impact or effect in the way you do things, especially when you are there campaigning. Yes, it has happened to Donald Trump, his own sister, a former judge, talking about Mary Ann Trump Barry. You know, she said you just cannot trust her brother, Donald Trump. Yes, they talk about principle, not upright, and all that. If this can be coming from his sister, what do you think would be the mindset of American populace? Now, this is not the first time some persons have chosen to leave Donald Trump's administration. Close part, they were like, working with him, but they defect. They said, look, Trump, we don't understand what you're doing anymore. I think we have to call it quits with you. And they resigned. Yes, they were replaced, but as it stands right now, Joe Biden is in front, while Donald Trump is lagging behind when we talk about American opinion polls. But don't forget what happened in 2016. It was almost like this. Donald Trump was trailing behind, but somewhere along the line, he became Mr. President. With me here in the studio to talk about this, I have a political analyst, a very, very vibrant youth. Join me to welcome Williams Wifo. Williams, welcome to International Forum.
Thank you, Wilson. Good afternoon, viewers.
What is happening to Donald Trump? Yes, he's been nominated unconditionally, so to speak, as the flag bearer of the Republican. He's their sole candidate, but he's so bitter right now. Even saying, telling his colleagues that, look, if you're not careful, this election may be rigged in favor of the Democrats. Now, adding salt to injury, so to speak, the statement got from an audio, the voice of the sister speaking against Trump. Putting all this together, where do you think Trump stands right now?
Well, he's in a very precarious situation right now. And it's not surprising, because any right-thinking person would not take sides with somebody like Trump. And it was often said before the 2016 election that, look, this man cannot be trusted with power. A lot of people who have experienced his leadership style while he was a New York businessman have seen his bullish behavior. They've seen his racism, how he would ask his employees that when a black person comes to rent his property, they should write C on the person's application, which indicates that the person is colored, and that black people are genetically lazy. So for that reason, he's not going to rent his properties to them. So a lot of people raised these alarms then, but it felt like, oh, it was partisan. It's just people who don't like him because he's an outsider and all that. But now America has gotten a taste of that medicine, that bitter pill that Africa has tasted for a long time. Because the man practically runs the country like a third world country where anything goes. I mean, just last week here, Steve Bannon, who was the chief strategist for his campaign in 2016, was indicted for funneling monies that were meant for funding the war. Because, as at that time he was trying to fund the war, he told the American people that he was going to build a war between Mexico and the United States. And then he got into office, he told the Americans that the Mexicans are going to pay for it. He got into office and was now asking Congress for $25 billion to build the wall. And they said, no, you were the one who made the promise that Mexico was going to pay for this money. Look, we can't fund it. And then when they saw that the funding wasn't really coming, Steve Bannon and another guy, they set up a Fund Me campaign, a Fund the World campaign, which Donald Trump backed, only to find out that hundreds of thousands of dollars was funneled into the pockets of Steve Bannon and the co-founder of that group. So he's running the most corrupt American presidency we've seen in modern times.
But these are just allegations. They cannot be substantiated.
It's not an allegation. Steve Bannon's indictment is not an allegation. It was investigated, and most of those monies that people donated to fund the war was found in the accounts of Steve Bannon and Koza, the other guy who co-founded the Fund the War campaign. And even Donald Trump's son was there the day they inaugurated that group. So they can't play oblivious of the fact that.
But I don't think that Steve Bannon walked alone outside the concert of Donald Trump by
No.
fumbling with those money.
No. Build the wall is a Donald Trump initiative. And Steve Bannon being his chief strategist, even if now he's no longer with the White House, is still a close ally of the president. And when they were inaugurating that, initiative, Donald Trump Jr. came out to say, look, this is what they've been asking for. They want American taxpayers to donate something towards the building of that wall, which people did. And then I watched the video where they promised that every penny from what was donated will go into building the wall, only to find out that most of those monies were found in their account, in their personal account. So he's running a very, very defective government. His ineptitude has come to the fore, because a lot of people used to say, oh, maybe the weight of the office will make him a more responsible person, because they knew a lot of things about him before he became president. But a lot of people felt, oh, maybe because he's a civilian, it's not such a big deal. When he sees the responsibility bestowed on him by virtue of being president of the greatest nation in the world, he will live up to that responsibility. He will grow into the job. I was also very critical of him, and I also felt too that somehow Donald Trump will rise to the occasion. But every time, he has lived below expectations. He has led below what people think that a modern president, this is not even about America. The things that he does, so many third world leaders would not even do it. Look at the way he has led the national crisis, as it pertains to coronavirus. Your health expert, your top infectious disease expert says one thing, and then you go on Twitter and attack him. So who is the country going to believe? He has been leading that country with so much chaos, just the way he did with his businesses. So a lot of people are now saying, look, how much more can we take? We have to put country above party. His former Secretary of Defense, James Mattis, broke ranks with him last year, because the man was advising him, look, instead of pulling the armed forces, the U.S. troops out of Syria at once, let us do it in a phase-wise manner. You can't pull them out all at once, because it will leave a hollow that INT'L and the other terrorist group can capitalize on. Let us do it. I am the Secretary of Defense. I believe I know this terrain better. But Trump would not listen. He went ahead and said he was going to pull out the forces, and that was why Jim Mattis, being a person of integrity, high integrity, had to put his resignation to him and said, look, I can't continue if my opinions don't matter and you know so much, because he has often bragged that he knows more than the generals. He knows more about war than the generals. This is a man who dodged drafts 5 times. He claimed to have served in the army, but never went for any war. Even when he will be drafted, he will give 1 or 2 excuses just to dodge drafting. So these are men who have fought for the country. They know what it feels like to be passionate, to be patriotic. They are now telling you this is how it should go. But the man says no, he knows more than them. So a lot of people are breaking ranks with him because of his chaotic leadership style. Even 5 senators that were Republican senators, prominent ones, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, Mitt Romney from Utah, a lot of them said they were not going to attend the Republican National Convention because some of them cited coronavirus as an excuse. But then a lot of them have been making public denouncements of the president's stance on issues.
All right, now let's backtrack to some of the points you raised, talking about the sea in the form of a black occupant that really want to occupy Trump's building or making of his properties. But you get to realize that even in the convention, people around him, the blacks, are even singing his praise. Do you think that statement or comment of yours that he's a racist doesn't hold water because of the presence of black personalities even in his campaign trail?
Yes, there are some black people without integrity.
Relevant black personalities.
Yes.
People of color.
People of color, yes. I've had to follow up on many of them, and I've discovered that so many of them don't have integrity. You can't be
Can you speak for
No,
them?
no,
No,
yes,
no,
yes.
how- no,
Yeah, yes, no.
Let's say
No,
you are becoming too personal about this.
No, when there's
Because you can't say you don't have integrity about this. Choose to come up with Donald Trump.
There's this African American that he retweets all the time. You can search for him. He calls himself Donald Trump's grandson.
Yeah.
And he's African American, and he claims that Democrats are just using the blacks as props and all that, to gain political advantage. I had to go to his page only to find out that all he does is just make outlandish, comments, and then he has a GoFundMe page where these Republicans that are so gullible, most times they put money, into his GoFundMe account. I followed up the other woman who claimed to be from Nigeria that was supporting the use of hydroxychloroquine, only to find out that she's a pediatrician. How come did the pediatrician become this expert when it comes to coronavirus? I mean, you treat children, for God's sake. So that woman on her own has no credibility. This is a woman who claims that, America, there's this deep state that wants to take down Trump's presidency. She has made some other outrageous statements that I can't even mention on air because of how bad those comments are. So I followed up on some of these people, and I found out that and she also has a GoFundMe page. The minute she got attention from the post she made about hydroxychloroquine being a cure for coronavirus, a lot of Republicans started funneling money into it. She opened a GoFundMe account and started paying money into her account. I also followed up a lady who was cleaning the Black Lives Matter mural that was in New York City. And I followed her up, I checked her page, and I also saw
and
that
I'd like the PD to please show us the clip of U.S. elections so that people can really appreciate what you're talking about. Please continue.
I only found out that most of these black people are just also using this, using that platform of supporting Trump to get some money for themselves. Because you can't possibly support a man when George Floyd was killed. And one would expect the President of the United States to condemn the killing of George Floyd, the kneeling on his neck by that white police officer. But he would not do that. He would not disavow these police officers. Rather, he would say that most of these officers don't get appreciated for what they do for the country, that they get killed in the line of duty, but nobody appreciates them, just to dodge the fact that they killed a black man. So the way he has handled race relations in America, he even retweeted a white Trump supporter who was saying white power in a video. And after much backlash from the media and his supporters, he took down that tweet.
But saying that he his tactics to really engage the people to him, to vote for him.
That's what I'm saying. He's a divider in chief. He divides this conquer and rule, thing. That's what he does. He whites against blacks. Look, the blacks are trying to take over. Like when he was calling them thugs. Meanwhile, when the white people in Michigan said they needed a haircut, that why is their country in lockdown? Why is their state in lockdown? Meanwhile, they had a Democratic governor. And they were saying that, look, they need a haircut, they want to go out. They brought out guns. They wore what's it called, masks. Not coronavirus face masks. Masks, like armed robbers. They wore it. They went to the government house with guns. And Trump was telling Governor Gretchen Mitchell, why not allow these fine people go out and get a haircut?
But he's trying to pacify the situation. That's what he was doing, for there to be peace in that region, Michigan.
One would have now called him a pacifist if he said the same of the riots and the protesters that protested after George Floyd was killed. You called those ones thugs. You said they should go back into their homes. You said that police should use maximum force. In many cases, the most these guys could carry was pebbles. But these other guys carried guns because they were all white. Some of them even had black dolls hanging on nooses. And then he called them fine people, that they should allow them to go get a haircut. Nobody was killed, just for their haircut. They brought out guns. And now a black man, a white officer knelt on his neck for 8 minutes. You watched the video. And all you could say is that when the looting starts, the shooting starts. So if that is not the textbook definition of racism, I wonder what we would term as racism. Because you don't use the same standard you use for white people for black people. You are the divider-in-chief. You want to tell the white people they are more in population.
No, not divider-in-chief, commander-in-chief.
No, he has earned that title for himself because he has always been in the middle of Americans. He has always been there trying to divide them, to tell these ones that they are better. Even the squad in Congress, Ilhan Omar and the other African American women, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and her group, he told them to go back to the crime-infested places they come from. These are Americans. But because they are women of color, you could say, how many times has he told a white person to go back to the crime-infested place?
But he later apologized.
Well,
he did that.
Yeah, but
he apologized.
He has been at the vanguard of separating that country at all times. So when a lot of Republicans look at these things, let's not forget that the Republican Party of late has become a very known to be a racist party. Let me not say become. A lot of people now see it as a racist party because you see most of the black people drifting towards the Democrats. Why? Because Democrats at least try to protect their rights. But the Republicans, I've heard Republicans publicly brag, or I've read, op-eds on Republicans who publicly brag about the hanging of black men. There was a donor that was going to donate to a lady who was running for Senate. And he said he would gladly attend her fundraiser, even if it was a public hanging of a black person that was done there. So she laughed about it. She was later asked and she said it was just a bad joke. These are people who joke about racism. They don't take the black man seriously. So when I see people say blacks for Trump, I look at them as comedians.
But these are blacks.
Yeah.
And they're saying they are for Trump.
I look at them like comedians because you
now,
can't possibly stand for a man who oppresses your race all the time.
Now, let's take a look at the issue of the allegation raised by Donald Trump saying that if the Republicans are not too careful, the election will be rigged in favor of the Democrats. I don't think he has a lot of points in what he's saying.
The man has no point. The man has no grounds. The man just lies. I mean, you heard it from his own sister, not from me, Marianne Trump. She said all the line and all the tweets just gets under her skin. Like, who is this guy? You are wearing a gray suit. Donald Trump can say you are wearing a black suit. And because he has this occultic followership, people will say, look, yes.
How do you know he has occultic followership?
When I mean occultic followership, yeah. I'm using a figure of speech here. I'm not saying that. But the way they follow him blindly, the way his supporters follow him blindly, when he takes a stance, they don't evaluate it anymore.
But that is loyalty. That is loyalty.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
When you are loyal to the point where you cannot tell truths from lies, then I wonder, people are now rightly saying that, look, he's actually leading a group of people. They call it occultic followership, not because they are in a cult, but the way they follow him without reasoning whatever he has done, or without, taking cognizance into the stance that he takes on issues. Because I cannot imagine a man who would laugh at a 75-year-old man. A man was shoved down by the police you put on the streets. And then when he fell, blood came out of his 2 ears. And Donald Trump said that the man was acting. A 75-year-old man, his own age mate. Donald Trump said the man was acting. That he's just another Democrat. Those who seek to bring down his presidency. And then even the Joint Chief of Staff's chairman, Mark Miley, he had to come out because he was the one on combat, on army uniform, that was with Trump when he went for that photo op at Lafayette Square in St. John's Church across the White House. He said he felt so bad being in that same photo with Trump because it sent a wrong message to Americans. It sent a wrong message to the international community that America is being militarized by her own president. And then Trump walked across the street, they tear-gassed peaceful protesters. Nobody stoned, nobody threw pebbles at the White House. He tear-gassed them. Some of them were shot. That was when that white man, the 75-year-old white man, was shoved down and blood came out of his ears. One of the policemen was even going to help him. The other one told him to leave him there. Everyone saw that video. And Trump thought it was okay. So any human being who sides with Trump, sometimes I look at them with so much awe and I'm scared. How can you endorse this kind of behavior?
All right. Now, let's take a look at his chances. Because right now, according to opinion polls, Joe Biden is leading. But it happened in 2016. Hillary was like, on the lips of everyone. But what was the outcome? Do you think what happened in 2016 will repeat itself even in 2020?
I think what happened in 2016, it was just, there was this cultural war, there was this gender war that was, you know, ongoing. A lot of people were still not ready for a female president. So even while, and let's not forget that Hillary Clinton still won the popular vote. So the polls were not entirely wrong. It's just that because of the electoral college votes, where you have to win battleground states, and if your opponent can take the battleground states, then you are done for. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by over 3 million. So the polls may not have been wrong per se. So in this very election, it is, if things remain the way they are now, if he remains this polarizing figure that he has been all through his presidency, then I don't see him winning this election.
Finally, before we call it a wrap on this show, do you see Donald Trump changing tactics to at least then get the people to him?
He has been trying to change tactics, but as it's often said, a leopard can't change his skin. He has been like that all through his business days. He has been like that all through his presidency. And the man just don't have it in him to be a decent human being.
All right,
that's just the problem he has.
But he is decent. He is decent.
He's
your
not.
own opinion. Your own opinion. Let's just see what will come up. Yeah, November 2020, Americans, they are gearing up. Lots of things were said about Donald Trump. Naughty things, nasty things, but the man came out tops. Is it going to happen again this year? Only time will tell. Williams, thanks a lot for coming to today's show.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your comment.
Thank
See
you
you next week. Bye for now.